Let's say a hurricane is forecast for your area. How much time do you have to prepare for it? Well, it depends. Hi there, I'm Carolyn Sherlock, and on this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast, I'll share how to calculate your prep time so you can take advantage of every hour to keep your boat as safe as possible. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Mantis Marine, maker of the Mantis Anchor, available in models with and without a roll bar. It sets reliably in the most challenging bottom, digging in like no other, making anchoring safer and boating more enjoyable. Mantis Marine also has scuba diving accessories, a rechargeable waterproof headlamp for hands-free lighting, and what I think is a wonderful thing, solar charging navigation light that is absolutely perfect for dinghies. Visit mantismarine.com and see for yourself. Okay, let's talk about how much time you have for hurricane prep. I mean, if there's a hurricane headed towards you, a big question is always, how much time do I have to prep for it? The answer that we've realized over however many years and however many hurricanes we've prepped for isn't always so clear. The forecasts will estimate when a storm will be at a particular place or when it will make landfall. But what's important to note is that most of these forecasts, particularly from the U.S. National Hurricane Center, are talking about the location of the center or the eye of the storm. Gale-force winds will extend out considerably further, and most of us consider their arrival to be the start of the storm. Once gale-force winds reach a location, you really can't do any further prep. It'll also be extremely difficult to evacuate, even trying to get to a safe place ashore by dinghy, let alone if you're in an area that requires evacuation further inland. So the first important point is to know how a particular forecast that you're looking at is reporting time and location of the storm. Some, like Chris Parker, do talk about the time that all preparation should be complete. But even with these, it's helpful to understand the logic. So the first question is, when will the gale force winds reach you? And if you're going to evacuate, how long before then do you need to be leaving? Seems like a simple math problem from there. How far away is the storm, or the center of the storm, I should say? How far out do gale force winds, and how fast is the storm moving towards you? Let's say it seems like a simple math equation because there's two unknowns, one major and one somewhat more minor. The speed of the storm can vary considerably over both time and from what is forecast. That's the major unknown. The size of the storm can change with gale force winds reaching out further or not as far. That doesn't happen to as large an extent as the speed changing. Hurricane forecasting gets better every year, but a forecast is never a guarantee of what it'll do. So I tend to look at the NHC forecast and read info from other forecasters. From these, and with a chart, either paper or electronic, I'll start by marking the current location of the center of the storm, figuring out how far it is from my location, basically a straight line, assuming the worst is that it heads straight at me. Find out how far out the gale force winds extend and how fast the storm is forecast to move. Then I go a step further and read the National Hurricane Center forecast discussion to see how confident the forecasters are about the timing. I can't overestimate the importance of reading the discussions. Often you'll discover that there's considerably uncertainty with the track, the strength, or speed of the storm. Now, remember, if you need to get things secured ashore and travel inland, you've got to allow time for that before the gale force winds are likely to hit. So if you need 3 hours ashore to get to safety, you've got to subtract that, figure out how much time you have to prep and you need to be off the boat. Now, you got to hear the story behind this post. You knew there was going to be a story, right? You see, with our first hurricane, Dave and I didn't really think about what it meant that the storm is 200 miles away. My only excuse is that we both came from the Midwest, and blizzard forecasts usually tell when the snow will start, not when the center of the storm is going to pass overhead. Figured if it was 200 miles away, moving at 4 knots, we had 50 miles to be ready. Well, no. Even if it kept moving at 4 knots, we'd only have about 25 hours to get ready since the gale-force winds went out 100 miles. So we've just gone from 2 days to finish prepping to 1 day. Now, we should have figured that out. But interestingly, none of the hurricane prep material I ever read said anything about the forecast storm location being the center. It was just assumed that any idiot would know this. Well, we were the better idiots that didn't. It seems that no one else in our hurricane hole thought about this either. All the other boats had the same idea of timing as we did. But the bigger thing is the storm didn't keep moving at 4 knots. Overnight, it sped up to 20 knots. Instead of having at least a day to double-check all of our work, we had less than an hour from when we woke up. All the high-priority things had been done the day before, thankfully, and we came through the storm with no damage. But all of that has made me a huge advocate for, first, understanding how to calculate how much time you might have from the forecast information. And secondly, having a checklist with high-priority items clearly marked. And third, actually doing the high-priority items first. Okay, I'm hoping that you do not have to deal with prepping for a hurricane this year, but that if you do, this episode of the Boat Galley podcast has helped you to be ready just a little bit better than you might have otherwise. Please be sure to subscribe so that you always find out what's going on here, and tell any friends. Leave us a review, anything else. Thanks so much. Until next time when we try to make your boat life better.